Good evening, Sheila, and thank you for joining me tonight. Could you just give a little introduction to yourself and who you know that lives with diabetes, and let the community know a little bit about yourself?
Good evening, Claire, and thank you for this invitation to speak to everybody on Diabetes Chat. And hi to everybody who might be online tonight or listening at a future stage. So, I am Sheila, and I have lived, as I say, alongside type 1 diabetes for 35 years. And why have I lived alongside type 1 diabetes for 35 years? Because I am married to my lovely husband, Iain, who himself has been living with type 1 diabetes for 64 years. And as he has had a very full and long career, but about 3 years ago, I kind of gave up full-time working, but still getting quite engaged in lots of things, including actually more type 1 diabetes activity and work, which is just brilliant.
Thank you for that, Sheila. How does living with Ian's type 1 diabetes affect you as a whole family? One good thing and one not so good thing.
Oh, one good thing and one not so good thing. Oh my goodness, Claire, that's a challenge for a Monday night that you're giving me. So I think for me it's been very important because, of course, we got to know each other in our 30s, by which time Ian had already been living with type 1 diabetes for some time, and therefore it's very much his diabetes. So I very much had to be the support act. So kind of I'm just there to be there when he needs something, whatever that might be. Whether that's just making sure that there's a good meal on the table, or whether it's making sure that we've gone out for a walk that day, or we're putting on, or we just have a good life together. It's about supporting in the way that he wants rather than in any way taking it over. So I've never sort of looked at his numbers or anything like that, because it's very much his to manage and control, and it's me as the support act in any way that's best for him. So one good thing, one bad thing. One good thing, I think it's probably brought us much closer together as a couple, to be honest, because you have to learn to know each other really, really well, and really understand each other and just know what the synergies are and how to work. So I think it's probably brought us much, much closer together, which is in many ways is a real, real privilege, to be honest, Claire. One bad thing I think would be just generally that the frustration of type 1 diabetes can affect the carer as much as it can the person who has type 1.
So my next question is, do you feel as if you need support as well to help Ian live with his type 1 diabetes?
I think if you'd asked me that over the first umpteen years, I'd have probably said no, because we just kind of cracked on with it. And it was just a part of life. I think as one gets older oneself and the person with type 1 gets older, then actually the challenges become sometimes a little bit more acute. And just even being part of a wider type 1 diabetes community can be incredibly supportive.
My last question is, with the experience that you have in supporting your husband with his type 1 diabetes, what would you say to new partners, husbands and wives to help them help themselves while supporting somebody living with the condition?
I think there's a very good word, and that's perspective. So always keep everything in perspective. And always remember that if it's your partner, then you have fallen in love with somebody. So always remember the person that you have fallen in love with. And yes, that person happens to come along with something called type 1 diabetes at the same time. But always do what you can when it's necessary. And just there are moments when that is necessary to make a division between the person that you love and the frustration of type 1 diabetes, and always keep those separate and never conflate them. Always remember why you married or are partnering with the person that you love, and remember that first and foremost you love them.
Thank you, Sheila. This is a very interesting and important chat. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Is there anything else you want to mention or highlight to the community?
I think it is really interesting and important for a partner who comes along in later stage. It is a very different form of caring and support to a parent. This is because a parent is bringing up and working alongside a child, and of course they may, depending. We were just speaking to somebody the other day who actually had been diagnosed when they were 18 months old. So he said he's just never known life without type 1. It's just been his life. Of course, coming along when you're 30 and somebody's already lived with it for a lot of years, I think it can probably be quite challenging in some instances. And I know I've had one or two conversations over the years with other people about how they sort of manage it and sort of wanting to get really involved themselves, but actually the person's not wanting that because they already know how they control it and what they want to do. So finding that line between involvement and backing off, I think actually can be quite challenging sometimes for a partner.
So do you think it is important to have a chat with your partner to see what role you can maybe play to help support them?
Yeah, really important, because I think people will want different things. So some people actually will want you to possibly have a smartwatch as well, and to be wherever you're both working or doing or whatever you're doing, have the access to that. I know in our instance, that wouldn't work. So absolutely, if you're developing a relationship with somebody, it's having that really honest conversation about actually what the individual is wanting and needing from that support, but also you being clear about what support you can give, whilst also looking after yourself.
Thank you, Sheila, for joining me on Diabetes Chat and for sharing your perspectives and lived experiences. And on behalf of the community and someone who lives with diabetes, we are forever grateful for the support, care and help you and others do to help us. Thank you again for joining us tonight.